Hey YouTube, I'm Aaron Collins. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make your first game in JavaScript. I will be expecting that you have basic knowledge of JavaScript, but you won't have to download any external software. I will be using Notepad++, but it's not required. It just makes it easier to see. Now, what's our game going to look like? Well, balls are going to be falling from the sky, and the player, who is also a ball, has to dodge the balls that are falling. The player will be red to distinguish him from the other white balls that are falling from the sky. There will be a score counter in the top left that will increment by 10 every time a white ball hits the bottom. It's a very simple game, but it's easy to start with. Now, our game will consist of a main game loop that calls the update and the draw function. The update and the draw function will tell the player and each ball to do their corresponding tasks. The player just has to draw itself on the screen. The ball has to draw itself on the screen and check the distance between the ball and the player. It's very simple, but it's going to be an amazing first game.
Alright, so let's get started. First, we're going to make a new folder. This folder is going to contain your game. I'm going to call my folder JavaScript game, but you can call yours whatever you want. Okay, so the next step is open up your folder. Make a new file, specifically a text document, called index. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to open index in Notepad++ or whatever you're using, and we're going to have to save it as an HTML file. So go to Save As Type, go to, which type H here, HTML, save it as index.html. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to quickly set up the HTML so we can get into programming with JavaScript. Alright, so what I have here is the head tag and the closing head tag, the body, and a closing body tag, and then I have our canvas set up here. The canvas is what our game's actually going to be drawing on, and you have to make sure to set this to whatever dimensions you want your game to be. I would like mine to be 600 by 400, and make sure this ID is something you're going to remember, because in our JavaScript we're going to have to find this ID in order to draw on our canvas. Next, what we're going to have to do is actually make our script. I set our source to be game.js so that I can make it a separate file. So, next what we have to do is we have to make a new file called game. Again, go in and with your preferred software, open it up and save it as, this time, a JavaScript file. JavaScript file and save. Alright, so now we actually get to start programming JavaScript. So we made our initialize function. All it does is get the canvas by calling document.getElementById canvas. This is the same canvas ID that we set earlier in the HTML. Next, let's make our game loop, and let's set everything else up, and I'll be right back. So all I did here is I started the loop by setting running equal to true, which is a boolean, and then I made loop be called over and over and over. If running is equal to true, it's going to call update and draw. Alright, so what I've done here is I've actually went through and completed the game. I'm going to walk you through line by line what each line of code does. So window.onload actually just calls the initialize function, and the initialize function sets everything up. So canvas is referring to our canvas element via document.getElementById, and our canvas element is simply what we're drawing our game on your computer screen. Canvas height and canvas width are pretty self-explanatory. They are just the width and height of the canvas. Next, we create our player. So our player is going to have an X position of the middle of the screen and a Y position of the bottom of the screen. So you may be wondering, why is the canvas height -10? Well, canvases actually start in the top left corner, and then the coordinate system increases as you go down and to the right. So canvas height minus 10 is actually just the bottom of the screen, or the canvas actually. It has a radius of 10. We created it with red color, and also we set it with a speed of 4. The next step is we're going to add key listeners, start the loop, and start adding our balls to the screen. So you may be wondering, what is a key listener? What key listeners are is they listen for when a key on your keyboard is pressed in order to move our player around. So let's go to our add key listeners function. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an event listener, or just something that's going to listen for when the key is pressed. And when a key is pressed down, we're going to set some Boolean variables equal to true. When the left arrow key is pressed, the left pressed Boolean will be set equal to true. And when the right arrow is pressed, the right pressed Boolean will be set equal to true. And vice versa, when a key goes up, the left pressed Boolean and the right pressed Boolean will go to false, depending on which one got released. Alright, next. So our start loop function, all it does is it sets run equal to true, and it sets the loop function to keep repeating and calling itself over and over and over and over. If running is equal to true, then we're going to call our update and our draw function. So our update function is simply going to tell the player to update itself and every one of the balls to update itself, and the draw function is going to get hold of the context, or basically the way that we draw on the canvas, and then it's going to pass it to the player and the ball, and it's also going to draw our background, clear the screen, and simply show our score over top of everything. Also, what I've done here is I've created a draw circle function. All this does is make it a lot easier to draw on the canvas, and it's going to just make our code look a lot neater. Okay, so let's go to our player and our ball class. Our player class simply takes in the X, Y, radius, color, and speed. And then what we do here is we draw it on the screen using our draw circle at X, Y, radius, color, and with the context that's passed in. And then what we do here is we update the player. So if the left key is pressed, we're going to subtract from the X coordinate, which is going to move to the left, and vice versa. The X coordinate will be increased if the right key is pressed, and it'll move to the right. What we have over here is if the player tries to move off the screen, we restrict him to stay on the screen. Now let's go to the ball class. The ball class simply takes in the radius, color, and speed. It takes care of its own X coordinates by randomizing it to be anywhere from the left or right side of the canvas, and the Y coordinate is simply just off the top of the screen, just so that you don't see it when it spawns in. Everything else is set normally. The draw function just draws it just like the player class. So the update function here, all it does is increase the Y, aka move the ball downwards by speed, and if the ball is below the canvas, then it just deletes the last ball, increases the score by 10, and also over here we quickly check the distance to see if the ball is colliding with the player. If it is, we tell the player game over and we stop the game. Lastly, I'm going to explain the start adding balls function. So it's called as the last function in initialize, and it looks like this. So we have set interval, which simply just creates a looped timer that will call ball timer between 0 and 5 seconds. Ball timer simply is another timer that is not looped, which will create a ball and we'll add it to the array of balls to be updated and drawn. But also, what it's going to do is it has a random chance, a 10% chance, to call the start adding balls function again. So what happens here is there's a 10% chance every time a ball is added that it will create a new timer to start adding balls again, and over it's going to start adding balls more and more and more. So what this does is it allows your game to get harder, but it also allows you to control how fast the game gets harder. So let's test out our game. Alright, so we can actually move left and we can move right to dodge our balls. We have balls that hit the bottom of the screen and will increment our score by 10. And what we can do here is we can watch as our balls get harder and harder to dodge as more and more will fall. So depending on the random number that was picked at the beginning, the hardness of the game will be different. So this one here is specifically easy, but as you can see, it's starting to get harder over time. And eventually, this game will become fairly difficult. Now, when we get a game over, a message will pop up letting us know that we failed, but it will also tell us our final score. So I got 2,500. So let's go over what you can improve in this game. You could change the player's colors, you could make it look a lot more beautiful. You can actually go to the start adding balls function and change the maximum time at which a ball can be called in order to make the game always harder. You can adjust the chance for more balls to start getting added over and over. Also, you can change the speed of the player, what color he is, and you can change the size of the player. You can really change anything to make this game anything you want, and I'm interested to see what you do with this game. The code for this game will be in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy your first game. This has been Aaron Collins, and I hope to see you in the next one.